Hello and good evening. I'd like to welcome you all to this evening's licensing subcommittee. Hello, good evening. I'd like to welcome you all to this evening's licensing subcommittee. I will just advise of the protocols for the hearing this evening. Can I ask that you only speak when invited to do so by the chair? If you wish to speak, please raise your hand and direct all communication via the chair. Please ensure that your mics are muted when you are not speaking, apart from the chair, who does not need to mute their mic at any stage of proceedings. When speaking, please be succinct and do not exceed the allocated timeframes. If you're referring to a page or picture in a report, please refer to the specific page number. If you are having any technical difficulties, please use the chat function to alert us. Please do not use the chat function for putting formal questions to the subcommittee. Any persistent disruptive behaviour will result in removal from the meeting. Once the application has been considered, we will ask Ms. Doherty that you vacate the meeting, and if you could do so promptly, please, to allow members the opportunity to deliberate and make a decision on the application. Following which, a skeleton decision will be available tomorrow morning from the licensing service. Okay, I would like to ask members if they can nominate a chair for this evening's proceedings, please.
I nominate Councillor Peters.
Thank you. And I accept that nomination. In the pack of documents, there is an agenda, an order of business, the first item of which is the election of the chair. The second item is apologies for absence. Do we have any apologies for absence?
Councillor Osden.
Yeah, we do. We have apologies from Councillor Osden.
Okay, thank you very much. Our third item of business is declarations of interests of any members of the panel. That's myself and Councillor David. I'm getting a shaking head from Councillor David.
Nothing, nothing to declare.
Wonderful, and I don't think I have anything to declare either. So we can move on to the fourth item of business, which is minutes of previous meetings. Now we have two sets of minutes in front of us. One from the 26th of January 2021. At which I was in the chair actually of that meeting, and Councillor Rout was also on the panel. I am happy that those minutes are an accurate record of that meeting. Also on that we have in front of us are minutes of a meeting that took place on the 25th of May 2021. That was myself and Councillor Moema. I am happy that they are a accurate portrayal of what happened at that meeting. Now, the next thing on the agenda is a licensing subcommittee hearing procedure. So, Ms. Doherty, you will see this in the pack of documents, in the first document available online right at the end of it. And that is the procedure that we will follow this evening in respect of the application for which I understand you are here. And that application is actually the only substantive piece of business that we have this evening, and it relates to Fat Macy's of 232 Shoreditch High Street. Yeah, there's some nods there. I've not got the wrong application. So just panning down to the hearing procedure, you will see that the first step is the appointment of chair and introduction. So let's go around the room and do introductions. My name is James Peters. I'm a councillor in the Beauvoir ward. Councillor David.
My name is Councillor Colfer David, a councillor in Clissold ward.
Yeah, and if the council officers would like to introduce themselves.
I'm Subhashri Ramana, Principal Licensing Officer.
Amanda North from Legal Services, and Chair, if I can just say that you can mention about the temporary event notice which has been dealt with by delegated authority.
I think you just have, so I think that's probably sufficient. Ms. Williams?
I'm Natalie Williams, Governance Services Officer.
Mr. Tuitt?
David Tuitt, Team Leader Licensing and Technical Support.
And we have Mario here, who is here to assist with the IT. And Ms. Doherty, you're here for the applicant in this matter. Wonderful. So the second item, the second step of the procedure is for the licensing officer to outline the report when she's ready.
Thank you, Chair. Licensing service are receipt of an application for a premises license under Section 17 of the Licensing Act 2003 for Fat Macy's 232 Shoreditch High Street to authorize the supply of alcohol for consumption on and off the premises as stated in the agenda. Representation remains from the licensing. The applicant has submitted additional information which has been circulated. I have nothing else to add. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor David, did you have any questions on what we just heard there?
Oh, no.
Fantastic. So in which case, Ms. Doherty, do you want to tell us a little bit about this application? You've got 5 minutes to do so. You don't need to use all those 5 minutes. We have read the papers, so we are familiar with the application, but if there's anything that you want to bring out or emphasise, then feel free to do so.
Amazing, thank you, and hi everybody. Thanks for having you, so many of you here for the application. My name's Meg. I'm the founder of Fat Macy's. We're a catering and restaurant social enterprise that has been running now across London for just over 5 years. Prior to the pandemic, we were running as a catering business, and recently, in January of this year, opened our first premises in Victoria. Things are going pretty well for us over there, and we've been offered the second site on Shoreditch High Street in partnership with Brookfield Properties, who own the building. They've given us a sort of a lease of the building over 5 years to run a restaurant so we can expand our programme and also open a training academy on the same site. So what we're applying for today is an alcohol license for the ground 2 floors of that building, which will be opening as a restaurant. Very much in line with our existing restaurant in Victoria. The focus is very much the food, and the alcohol is sort of secondary to that. And that's mainly because due to our social impact, which is that we work with young people living in temporary accommodation and we train them up in catering and hospitality, it's really important for us that the food and the training environment is really important, and the alcohol consumption comes secondary. So I've provided some slides which just give you a bit more background about who we are and what we do. They're probably not that relevant for this application, but potentially of interest in terms of what we'll be bringing to the borough. And we're really looking to expand our work through this restaurant and to work a lot with Hackney Council and try to work with more young people who are living in temporary accommodation in the local area. So there's a bit in the slides that I sent round about the programmes that we run, how they work, and then just touches on a little bit about our restaurant site that we opened in Victoria. That's in partnership with Westminster Council. And so the second site we're opening will be in partnership with Brookfield Properties, as I said, but really keen to be sort of embedded in the local community and provide hopefully a newer sort of a newer restaurant on that stretch of Shoreditch High Street, which feels a little bit different maybe to what's already there. So I think that's all I was going to say. I've had conversations with a few people leading up to this meeting to sort of understand the representations that people had and to make changes to our application. But yeah, as I said, we're sort of focusing on the food with the alcohol being supplementary. I think our closing hours, I can't remember exactly what they are, but it was sort of before midnight or at midnight as we get set up in this first stage of the restaurant.
Okay, thank you. Councillor David, did you have any questions on what we've just said?
Yeah, I think you've been through the papers, and I believe you've seen the sole, should I say, the only standing reason for objection is that you haven't demonstrated that the additional activity will not add to the cumulative impact. Do you want to say something about that? I think, but first question is all the other, should I say, agreements, I mean, all the other conditions, they have been, you've agreed to them, so they're all fine. There is one place where there is, I think, a bit of confusion, which is conditions 17 and 23. You might want to look at, my hard copy is not numbered, but if you look at condition 17, you see where it states 2 smokers outside, and then condition 23, it states 5. So you might want to clarify that.
Ah.
Yeah, so that's the first one.
Yeah.
Second one is how, to demonstrate how you, or give us a bit of an explanation about how you're not going to add to the cumulative impact. So those are 2 things.
Yeah, of course. So I think the 17 versus 23 is human error. I think when we spoke to some of the teams who had representations, they recommended 2, and we're very happy to keep that number at 2 maximum outside the front of the restaurant. So we're very happy to edit that. In terms of working in that area, we're very interested in running a space that works in line with the local communities and the local population, and we wouldn't want to create a space in any way that sort of creates any extra noise, any sort of extra disturbance for local residents. We're very aware that we're sort of in between both 2 sort of quite busy pubs on that high street. So we've got the Light Bar on one side of us, and we've got the Crown and Shuttle a few doors up. And so I think what we're really pushing for in our business planning for this site is that we're really stressing that we are a restaurant and we do have a community focus. And so we're really not looking at tables that are just coming for drinks, or any tables that are likely to be sort of loud or rowdy. And I think that fits very much in line with the training program that we have. We have this sort of double need to both protect our trainees who are going through this learning program with us, and making sure that we provide a good environment for them. So I think it's important for us as a social enterprise, but I think also really important to reduce as much as possible the effect on the high street. We did talk about any sort of dealing with getting security on the doors if we believe that it does get sort of busy or loud, or there's specific dates where we have a lot of problems with sort of large crowds. And I think that would be something that we'd very much sort of reflect in on and assess week by week to decide if that's sort of suitable. And I think work with the police and the licensing team to make sure that what we're offering is very much in line with everyone else's expectations and not sort of causing disturbance in any way.
Sorry, I was just trying to unmute myself. Yeah, thanks for that. So being a social enterprise, you think that probably, I mean, the sort of clientele you would be having, I think that could actually be part of the explanation as to why you wouldn't add to the cumulative impact.
Yeah.
If I understand, that's what you're saying.
Yeah, I hope so. And I think it's the combination of our social mission. We tend to attract a crowd that is of a certain sort of group who don't tend to be there till sort of wanting to stay super late. Our space in Victoria is very residential, and we tend to we're closed most days by 10:30, music's over by 10, that sort of thing. And I think we'll be looking at a similar sort of clientele in that area. I suppose the only thing we've considered is if we do some private events in the space, that we would then sort of, I think, I can't remember who I was speaking to about it, but we'd apply for licensing, sort of TENS licenses for each of those, and we'd get security on the door for that to make it clear that it's not, it's a separate and private event.
I think the security on the door, I'm trying to locate where it is, but I think that's already part of the conditions, isn't it?
So there's a requirement that in condition 8 that if there is security on the door, then they need to be licensed. But I can't immediately see anything that suggests that there has to be security on the door. Is that?
Was there any such condition? Can someone clarify?
Sorry, Chair, if you can refer to condition 19 within the report.
Yeah.
I agreed with the police.
On an operational risk assessment basis.
Yeah, not compulsorily, but yeah.
Yeah. So what we
if a risk assessment.
Yeah, we spoke to when we spoke to the police, we discussed how we'd the understanding was normally as a restaurant it wouldn't be necessary, but if that became evident and we realised that there was a need, we would put that in place, whether that's per event or just on sort of busy nights or weekends or whatever it might be.
Okay, thank you. Could you so there's condition 15 in the conditions, which talks about it says, I'll read it out: the supply of alcohol for consumption on the premises shall be to seated customers only and ancillary to a substantial meal taken from the menu. Just looking at the slide pack that you sent through, some of the food there looks as if it's more sort of the tapas end of things rather than the substantial table meal end of things. But just can you reassure us that it will be a substantial table meal? Yes.
Yeah, of course. So we're a small plates restaurant, so yes, the plates are quite small, but we do recommend that all customers have sort of 4 to 5 plates. And I think in some of the pictures, maybe it shows some of the smaller dishes. There are sort of larger mains, which we think we'll be introducing in that area. We will have, it will be all seated in the restaurant, so we'll have a bar built in, but we won't have you won't be able to stand in the restaurant. You know, all customers will be seated at all times. And it's the same condition that we have in our Victoria site, which is that all alcohol sales have to be alongside a substantial meal.
Okay, thank you. Now I propose now that we move on to step 4, which is the responsible authority's case. The only responsible authority that has made a representation is the licensing authority. So I'll hand over to you, Mr. Stewart.
Thank you, Chair. I'll keep it very brief. So my representation is in today's agenda at Appendix B, and representations made on the grounds of the prevention of public nuisance. So as we've heard, the application seeks a new premises licence, but it's within the Shoreditch Special Policy Area. This is an area which is identified as suffering from the negative cumulative impact as a result of the concentration of licensed premises in the area. I've noted that the proposal is for a modest-sized restaurant, and on sales of alcohol are ancillary, or are proposed to be ancillary to a table meal, and the hours are aligned to the core hours, which are set out in LP3 in the policy. And I've also noted that there's no remaining representations from the other responsible authorities or other persons, and that the applicant has agreed conditions. However, as we've already heard, the basis of the representation is potential negative impacts as a result of the proposed activities, and especially given that the application seeks to authorise the supply of alcohol. And as Councillor David has already alluded to, it's for the applicant to demonstrate that their proposed activity will not add to the cumulative impacts in the area. And I have noted that the applicant has provided a brochure which gives a bit more additional background about the venture, and I've also spoken to the applicant a couple of weeks ago just in relation to the application, and to get some additional background information. I did also note the contradiction between conditions 17 and 23, but that's already been dealt with, so I'll leave it there for now, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor David, did you have any questions for Mr. Stewart?
Yes. Is there any specific conditions which you'd like to see added to this, which you feel would actually, demonstrate that there wouldn't be any addition to the cumulative impact?
Not so much additional conditions. I've looked through what's already been agreed, I guess, with the other responsible authorities on what was put forward in the original application. So it's not really, in terms of what's already there. The hours are modest. The size of the restaurant is modest, and the alcohol sales will be will be ancillary to a seat-to-table meal. It really is just a case of it being in the special policy area for us. So that's really why it's just for examination in this forum.
Okay, so it's just the location. The location is just the main issue. I mean, but do you? I mean, what's your view on the type of clientele which is, the place is likely to attract, and do you think? I mean, because it's a social enterprise, and having a look at that leaflet or brochure, which is additional information, do you envisage that any of this is going to particularly add to the cumulative impact in any, I mean, extreme way or in any way whatsoever? What's your views on that?
Well, there is the potential for that to happen. It's an additional site that's not currently operated. I wouldn't say that it's as a result of it being a social enterprise, because I guess, if this was an application from a private individual, I'd still be making the same representation. So it really is a site within the special policy area. So just for that applicant to demonstrate that it won't add to the cumulative impact. But we've already heard some measures from the applicant this evening, and we note that conditions have been agreed with other responsible authorities.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor, Ms. North.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just to suggest that maybe you could ask about the capacity of the premises. I think the applicant, although she has explained the application, maybe she hasn't clarified a bit more about their process and procedures of what they'll do once the evening starts, to ensure that there isn't any cumulative impact, and how they'll go about doing that. I appreciate it's going to be on a risk assessment basis, but maybe clarify a bit more about how much staff, etc., and what measures they'll be taking to ensure the premises are run responsibly.
Okay, thank you very much for that. So I think we're moving on to step 6, which is this discussion, and the description of this stage is that the Chair will structure and lead a discussion on the information presented, enabling the subcommittee members to clarify any points raised and ask questions if necessary. So, Ms. Doherty, if you could address that point, Ms. North, just for my own benefit, at the moment, is there a capacity restriction in the conditions? There isn't. Should there be?
Well, it's just to clarify what they're saying the capacity is based on their fire risk assessment. I don't think there's one specified in the report from licensing. No, I don't think it's known.
No, Ms. Doherty, what is the capacity of the premises as far as your fire risk assessment is concerned?
On average for the restaurant, it will be 38 covers seated. Plus, we imagine sort of 5 to 10 staff members per day, depending on how busy the nights are.
Okay, so a capacity.
There are two levels. We need to clarify about both levels.
So it's 16 on the basement level and 22 on the ground floor.
I think I would be more comfortable putting on a capacity condition here. And Ms. Doherty, that's not a reflection on you and your business at all. It's just that we've got to be very conscious that we're licensing a premises. So if your business, your social enterprise, were for any reason to move on, and someone could move in and then pack people in, there is a natural restriction on the fact that the alcohol can only be served for people sitting and consuming a meal. But I think it's usual for us to include a capacity restriction, and I think that capacity restriction should be. I'll look for guidance from officers here. But would the capacity restriction include staff? No, it wouldn't include staff. So
if you're minded to grant, we could explicitly state that in the condition, not including staff or excluding staff.
So I would propose using those numbers that you've just quoted to us. You're happy with that, are you? Yeah. So as I say, this is the discussion phase, but I'm going to look to Councillor David now as to whether or not we do need to prolong this discussion or whether we are happy to move to a decision.
I'm not too sure there's too much to discuss. I think the last question I would just ask would be in terms of dispersal. At the end of the day, how do you intend to, I won't use the term chase your customers out, but how do you envisage they're going to leave in an orderly way without, kind of yelling and streaking on the street sort of thing?
Yeah, of course. So as a restaurant, and all tables will come with bookings. We have a booking system already that we'll move over to the new site. We think we'll put the latest booking in at 9 p.m, which gives us a good amount of time before. I think we reduced our alcohol sales to half an hour before the venue closes. So we'll just be aware that when the final tables are seated, that they have an hour and a half before the alcohol sales stop. So we've got a sort of staggered approach where we can both control for table numbers, number of bookings, and then also the timings of that last table, which I think should help. I think it was maybe with you, David, or with the police officer I spoke to, we talked about the final sale of alcohol being half an hour before the venue closes, which gives people that time to put in any final drink orders, but also be aware and have a reminder that the venue will be closing. But I think in a similar vein to other restaurants, because we won't have, it's not like closing time and everyone has to go at the same time. We tend to have quite a staggered approach to people leaving in our Victoria site, and often we'll have one or two final tables at the end of the night rather than sort of the whole restaurant being full, because you do have a lot of tables coming in earlier in the day.
Okay, sorry, final thing, because I was trying to take notes. I didn't get the numbers correctly. 38, you said?
So 16 in the basement, 22 on the ground floor.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's it from me.
Wonderful, thank you very much. I propose that we move to the closing remarks. I think it's Mr. Stewart first, isn't it? Do you have any closing remarks?
Nothing further to add, Chair. Thank you.
Wonderful. Ms. Doherty, do you have anything further to say? You don't need to.
No, but thank you.
Wonderful. There's a step that concerns final clarification. Councillor David, do you need any further clarity on anything that we've heard this evening?
No, I think I'm crystal clear on everything.
Wonderful.
Thanks.
So I think that we are happy to. Councillor Ms. North.
I just spotted something. I could be wrong, so do correct me. But are the Sunday hours starting from 8 o'clock in the morning? Is that for the purposes of like breakfast or something, or is that?
Yeah, so that was the purpose of sort of coffee and takeaway.
Okay.
And our staff will be in from that time, but I very much doubt.
But the alcohol will start later. That's fine. Okay, thank you.
At 11 o'clock. Yeah. So I think, Councillor David, shout and wave your arms if I'm misrepresenting things, but I think we're happy to grant this license.
Yeah. Yes. So I said I was crystal clear. I think everything. I mean, if we do put that condition in terms of the numbers, I think it's very straightforward.
Okay. So the only thing that needs to change is that conditions 17 and 23 are consolidated, and to the effect that only 2 smokers should be allowed outside the premises at any one time. That in the basement there should be a capacity of 16 people, in the ground floor 22 people, and given all that, I think that we are satisfied that granting this license should not, and that you've demonstrated to us that it should not contribute to the cumulative impact of licensed premises in that area. And I think it just remains for me to wish you the best of luck with this enterprise, and I hope it's a fantastic success.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And you've all got to come down when we finally open. Many thanks.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Would you like? Do I go now?
If you could, yes.
Yeah. Thanks all.
Thank you. Right.
All right, thank you, Chair.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thanks.